What's up, riders? My name's Chewy. Today we're going to be reviewing the best mountain bike goggle that you haven't heard of yet. Let's check it out. All right, let's get straight into it. So today I'm going to be talking about goggles. And I'm a bit of a goggle hoarder. I like to try all the different types of goggles, the different types of lenses to try and figure out which goggle is going to work the best for me. I find this a very critical piece of equipment because you quite often see people wearing the goggles over the back of their helmet or on their arm, or not wearing them at all, or ripping them off mid-race run. Or when you watch the Downhill World Cup, you see the guys sitting in the start hut ready to go, and the very final thing they do is pop on their goggles. Now the reason for this is they don't want them to fog up, they don't want to get any rain or mist or anything on the goggles, they want perfect vision for their race run. So having a goggle that does everything it's supposed to do is very important to me because I like to actually see what's going on the trail. Now I've actually been through a whole heap of goggles to try and find the goggles that I'm recommending to you today, which of course is the Hilx Bandit goggle. Now these are actually in their snowboard collection, so the reason you may not have heard about these, even if you've heard about the Hilx brand, is because this is not a mountain bike specific goggle, it's actually in their snowboard range. Now I'm not exactly sure what makes this a snowboard specific goggle, but it looks exactly like a motocross goggle. The only thing that it does not have is the post mounts for mounting those tear-offs. If you do run tear-offs, take that into consideration. Now, the brand is called Hilx, H-I-L-X, and if you haven't heard of them yet, you will do. They actually had 5 riders in the previous Red Bull Rampage. So these guys are really pumping out the marketing, not just in mountain biking, but motocross, freestyle motocross, things like wakeboarding, snowboarding, all this sort of stuff. You'll see H-I-L-X, Hilx popping up all over the place once you keep an eye out for them. So you might be thinking, why am I doing a review on a pair of goggles? I just throw my whatever goggles in my gear bag, wear them all scratched up. I don't really care as long as they keep a bit of mud out my eyes. If you're that type of person, then maybe this product recommendation might not be for you. I'm the type of guy that likes to have everything working perfectly so I can just get on with the job at hand. And one of the big things that really annoy me is when my vision is affected, whether it be from fogging up or lenses being scratched or bad periphery or field of vision. It doesn't matter. I just like my goggles to not distract me from the task at hand. So the big one for me that I really enjoy about these goggles is how quick and easy it is to change lenses. Forever, I've always had 2 or 3 pairs of goggles in my kit just for different lighting scenarios. So if it's overcast and raining, obviously I'm going to go with a clear goggle. If it's a night ride, once again, a clear goggle. If it's a sunny day, full bright sunshine, I might go with a dark tint. If it's an overcast day, I might go with a really light tint, something like this. So I've always had a few pairs of goggles at hand. But with these, it is so damn easy to change lenses. You just undo these 2 clips, pull the lens off, pop the new lens in, and then close the clips. Done. Changed already. How fast is that? Maybe 5 seconds? It's really quick and easy. So what makes these goggles easy to change lenses is that they have the magnets here on the back, and the magnets actually hold the lens in place, and these 2 little retaining clips on the side is what actually stops the lens from flying off in a crash or something like that. And this is super handy because if you've ever changed lenses on a typical pair of goggles, you know how troublesome it is to try and change the lenses. You end up getting fingerprints on absolutely every possible part of the lens. It's fiddly to get in. You have to try and wedge it into the nose piece first and get the little tags in the right position and then get the top on and pull the sides up. And yeah, it is very difficult. So to be able to change a lens in literally 5 seconds is huge, which also means you only ever need 1 frame and maybe a couple of different sets of lenses depending on what lighting conditions you're going to be riding in that day. Now, one kind of thing that I like to make sure of whenever I buy a new set of goggles is how much sort of field of view you get, or how much does the foam around the outside or the padding encroach on your field of view or your periphery. These Hilx goggles have quite a nice wide field of view, quite a nice wide periphery, so it's not quite as distracting as some of the other goggles, and you can kind of see on the sides and see down below your nose a little bit more than other types, which is quite impressive. The foam has a bit of a relief around the top of the nose, the bridge of the nose. It wasn't a feature that I thought I would notice until I actually started wearing these goggles. Previous goggles I've had before, once you start getting sweaty and the goggles start to become a little bit heavier around the foam, is that the foam can kind of like pinch your nose and not allow you to breathe through your nose quite as easily. These Hilx ones don't really have that at all. The foam sits a little bit higher on the nose, so it doesn't stop you from breathing through your nose, which is quite important. And something I didn't think I'd notice whilst I was riding as well, which is pretty cool. Now, lens clarity and kind of optic quality on these is very good. You can see this is a pre-formed lens, which means it's already been bent into place. A lot of the cheaper options will have a flat lens that you have to bend to the shape of the actual frame, but these are all pre-formed, which generally results in a clearer optic, a clearer sort of vision. There's no sort of distortion in the lens. Sometimes you can get a bit of a rippling or a wobbling from a cheap sort of flat lens that you have to bend into place, which kind of distorts your vision, especially when you're riding fast and you've got things coming at you. You want a nice clear sort of optic. You don't want any sort of distortion in your vision. Now, whenever you jump on a website to look at goggles and different lenses and different tints, you will notice a lot of sort of proprietary names. You might have heard Oakley talking about their prism or trail lenses. And what they're talking about there is the color or the tint in the lens. Now, these ones, they don't actually have a tint color. It's what we call in photography a neutral density tint, which just makes it darker. So it'd be, if you had to call it a color, it would be a gray tint. So all it is make the light slightly darker. There's no sort of green or blue or sort of rose colored tint on the lens. It's just a darker tint. Now, I actually prefer that neutral density tint. I do enjoy some of the rose colored tint lenses because they bring out the browns and the greens quite nicely, which is important on the trail. Yes, it might not pop on the trail quite as much as a rose based tint, but I do kind of find it a little bit distracting if you're sitting there talking with your friends and then you set off for a ride and you throw your goggles on and all of a sudden all the colors are different. I don't know, it kind of takes me a little bit of time to adjust to that color, especially if it's something like a yellow tint. That can be quite distracting. Whereas the neutral density tint is not distracting at all. It's just slightly darker, so it takes away the highlights if you're riding out in the bright sunlight. So that's cool as well. Now, when you're on the website browsing these lenses, I highly recommend this one here in my hand. This is actually a photochromic lens. Now, all that means is if you're in low light, the lens is perfectly clear like it is now. But if you go into a bright sunlight situation, the lens actually gets darker. It's not a quick change. It's a very slow, gradual change, but it is very, very handy. Now, the tint, when it goes to its maximum kind of darkness, it's not super dark. It just kind of takes the edge off the highlights. It's dark enough without being too dark. So if you kind of dip from a bright sunny section into a dark forest section, it won't be too dark like maybe a full tinted lens would be. Very, very useful, good all-purpose lens. I would say if you're only going to buy one lens, I would go with the photochromic lens. You can still see your eyes when you're wearing this, even when it's at the darkest tint. I know a lot of people like the mirrored tinted style lenses because you can't see your eyes, and I think they look way cooler when they've got the mirror tint as well. But as far as functionality goes, this photochromic lens, I would definitely choose this one over the clear. It is a little bit more expensive, but I definitely think it's worth the extra money. Now, for me, a huge feature when it comes to selecting a set of goggles is their anti-fog properties. I live in Hong Kong and it is super hot, it is super humid, and often I'm riding hard enduro motocross bikes and I'm stuck on the side of a mountain in the hot sun, and goggles will almost always fog up. The kind of anti-fog strategies that are used to stop these from fogging up are as good as they get. They have an anti-fog coating on the inside of the lens, and these lenses are actually a dual layer vented lens. And what that actually means is there's actually two lenses fused together with a thin layer of foam in the middle, and it kind of works a little bit like an aeroplane window. When you look at an aeroplane window, you can see 2 or 3 layers of glass, and these work the same way. That is probably the best way to stop anything from fogging up, is to actually have a dual layer lens as well as that anti-fog coating. These just simply don't fog up. I can be riding in any conditions. It could be super hot, super humid. I can be stuck on the side of the hill and these won't fog up. I've never needed to pull these off because they were fogging up. These have been fantastic. And I reckon I'll go as far as saying that this anti-fog feature is probably my favorite feature about these goggles. They just simply do not fog up no matter what. Very, very important. Now, the dual layer vented lenses all have this little sliding open and close vent. It's like a little louver at the top of the lens. To be honest, I haven't found myself using or utilizing this little vent slider at all. Yeah, you might find yourself using it, but I haven't found the need to use it whatsoever. Now, these frames, even without the lenses on them, are pretty stiff. They're not super stiff, but they're not super malleable either. They're just flexible enough to be comfortable without wobbling all over the place. Now, the straps on these work exactly how you'd expect a goggle strap to work. They don't slip off the helmet. They've got these 3 little silicone wavy lines to stop them from slipping around. The size and shape is pretty standard. You can select which color option you want on the straps when you buy them, which is cool. They've got a few different colors to choose from to match whatever lenses or frames you're going with, or whatever riding kit you want to sort of complement with these as well. They adjust in the typical way with these sort of sliding adjusters on the back. That's pretty normal. Now, it wouldn't be a review without me mentioning the downsides of these goggles. To be honest, they tick all the boxes that I need them to tick, but there's a couple of little things that you might want to take into consideration. Number one, I'm going to say, is the price of the goggles. These are not a cheap goggle. These are $188 US, and that's just with the one standard lens that you get with these. If you want to add lenses, you of course can, and you probably want to be one of those guys that looks after their gear if you're going to be buying these. I'm guessing they're going to make an awesome gift. It's a pretty high-end bit of equipment, but like I said, you want to take care of these goggles. Now, I do want to mention how to take care of these dual layer lenses specifically, because if you submerge these lenses in water, you can get water in between the lenses, which is impossible to clean out. What you'll have to do, if that's the case, is kind of dry them out in maybe like a dehumidifying dry box or something like that. But each layer of lens is held together by what looks like an adhesive piece of foam, which can allow water to seep in between the lens. And if it gets right in your field of vision, which it always does, it's almost impossible to dry out completely. And even if you do dry it out, there is still a little bit of residue in between the lenses, which is, like I said, is impossible to clean. So how I take care of these is just by using some warm soapy water on a rag and just very gently dab them and clean them. Never use any kind of alcohol-based lens cleaning solution, because that will warp or remove the anti-fog coatings on the inside. So pay attention to that. Don't use anything like that. Just warm soapy water. I have had water seep in between the lenses in a torrential downpour rain when I was riding. I live in a very tropical environment in Hong Kong, like I said, and a torrential downpour is exactly how it sounds. It's a full torrential downpour. That might be an outlying situation that might never happen to you, but yeah, if you are riding in full torrential rain, maybe just whip the lenses out, put them in the lens bag and pop them in your bag, because like I said, you don't want water seeping in between the lenses on these. Now, there's one additional thing that I'd like to see with these lenses is the option to purchase a screen protector for them, just like you'd have on your phone. I have seen these offered on other brands of expensive lenses, where it's just basically a protective layer so that if you do drop them or scratch them, you can just swap that screen protector out. It's something that works a lot better than using a single tear-off as a screen protector. Now, tear-offs, I don't know, I don't really like using a tear-off as a screen protector, because I find it sort of gives a little bit of a haze to the lens, or it kind of affects the optics a little bit. Whereas if you had like a semi-stiff screen protector that you could put on there, that would be a nice little additional extra that they could probably sell. I think I'd probably buy a lens and 3 or 4 screen protectors and just swap them out every few months, and it's going to save you from scratching the front of your lenses and when you're trying to wipe the mud off and things like that. Right, so whenever I recommend these to my friends and they want to go online and buy them, they always call me back up and say, I'm having trouble finding these goggles, how do I find them? Now, if you go on hilxeyewear.com, which is Hilx eyewear.com, they can be a little bit hard to find this model, because like I said, this is part of their snowboard collection. It's actually called their Yeti collection and not in their gravity collection. So go on their website and click collections, and then you'll be able to see it down the bottom, but you can go down here to Yeti collection, and then it's the first goggle that pops up. It's called the Bandit if you want to search it as well. Click on that. When you jump into the website with the actual goggle front and center, then you can play around with the colors and the customization of different lens straps, frame options, and lens surround colors. So let's build my goggles here. That's my strap. I use the satin black lens and lens surround. I do prefer the satin black over like the bright orange and those different colors, because I find that if the actual frame has a color like a bright orange like my other ones do, then I can see it in my periphery much more so than the satin black color. Now, I'm one of those guys that's really sensitive to setup, like with things like brake levers and controls and handlebar angles and things like that. You might not be like that. You might just get on and ride and be the same with your goggles, but I prefer to have that satin black surround because I don't like that orange surround. To be honest, when I'm riding, I don't notice it at all. It's only when I first put the goggles on, so it's not really a huge issue, but it's just one of those things that I like to do. So you can take that into consideration when you're buying yours, but yeah, it doesn't matter what really color you buy, but I just prefer to have the satin black. And then you choose your lenses here, the clear color ones, the mirror tint ones, the polarized or photochromic. And then down the bottom, if you scroll down, you'll see all the different information about the sizes and then their proprietary names for all their different coatings and things like that. They've got Sponge Cake, which is their triple layered foam construction with 3 different types of material to ensure maximum comfort. So no matter what brand you go and look at, you're going to see different proprietary names. Just read through them and see what the different features do, because like I said, every brand's different. So have a look at that, and then yeah, you're away. That's how you buy the goggles, and that's how you find them online. They also have a pretty cool selection of sunglasses as well, so while you're on there, why not check out their sunglasses range as well. I know this sounds like an ad, but like I said, I'm stoked on this product, so I'm happy to show you guys how to buy it and what cool stuff they've got as well, so that's cool. So that's the website. Well, that's it from me. These are a 6 set of goggles, the Hilx Bandit. Definitely add them to the list of things to go and check out. These would make a sick Christmas present or birthday gift or something like that. They're a really nice high-end set of goggles that do everything that I expect them to do and allows me to focus on the task at hand, which is riding my bike. So I hope this review helped. If you guys liked it, please subscribe. If you didn't like it, don't subscribe. If there's something I missed out, if you've got any questions, hit me up in the comments down below. I always answer you guys down there. And as always, ride on, guys.